Tamalee, thank you so much for helping with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
So I completed my Master of Space Architecture from University of Houston back in 2019. Um, and it was a pleasure to meet you in person during that time in conference. Um, my my undergraduate education is in architecture, so that's what I do also. Um, but I love doing research in creating space habitats, both like orbital and on surface ones. So yeah, thank you for inviting.
So what got you into space architecture?
Well, at first I hadn't really thought about it, like, oh, I want to be a space engineer or something. No, that was never like back in the back of my mind. But then as I studied architecture, I realized that when you're designing habitats for space, the contrast between life and death becomes so critical that every little design elements now you really have to justify it. Um, and that was really captivating for me. Um, Other than the fact that now you have microgravity in some, context of space architecture, and you can design with all of the surfaces. There's actually this quote by, I'm forgetting his, Gehry, right? Frank Gehry, he's a famous architect, and he had a quote that said, like, as a design, like something along the lines of, as a designer, gravity is one of your constraints. And we really get to toy with that. And that's just so exciting. Yeah. So that's why.
When you were talking about with space architecture, the difference between life and death being so thin, like a very minor kind of design thing, and can really change the outcome a lot more with space than it can, let's say, building a hotel here on Earth as an example. I was wondering, as you said that, it reminded me of William Shatner, who had gone on that second New Shepard flight. And he came down, he was like all emotional. He's like, down here is life and up there is death. And it's just, did you see that by chance?
Um, I think I'm thinking about someone else, but I would love to check that out. I don't think I did. I was thinking about this space tourist. I'm forgetting his name, but when he was, I think he was like the first space tourist or something. So when he came back, he was like, again, very emotional. And but yeah, I guess I love the fact that space can induce both that sense of fear, but at the same time, you get this sort of awe-inspiring, like this overview effect, that kind of an emotion where you're both feeling connected to humanity and also like really fearing for your life at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I have that constantly holding over your head. I mean, like here, it's very common for us to try to escape the buildings that we're in when disaster strikes. They catch on fire, we run outside. They
Yeah.
start to collapse, we run outside. There's some type of, a poisonous gas or something inside it, we run outside. Uh, when you're on the space station, for example, or a habitat, outside is not where you go for safety.
Yeah, you can't just take a walk in the park or anything. You kind of have to just figure out. We were so there's this project we were doing, and we're exactly thinking about the same thing, right? Because so essentially it was a space hotel with a dual purpose, but I'm not going to go into that right now. At least, um, so the problem we were facing is that, okay, so if we have a space hotel, um if something got bad goes on, like what do we do, like how do we make sure that like people other than the crew members, so like space tourists essentially, how do they like, you know don't panic, or like even if they panic, there's some kind of a protocol that's like easy to do and gets them to a safety point. um I found out we settled for, I would say, because I think there might be a better solution out there that we just haven't thought of yet. But we just ended up having like two like RRVs on both sides of the hatches, reusable return vehicles on both sides of the hatches, and so like if one fails, there's another way to get back. But yeah, but I guess that's a very good question. Like if you're really panicked, it's like that freeze response of like fight or flight or freeze response. And if you have like untrained personnel, how do you kind of it's a very good question, and I think there might be a better solution to that.
But with the untrained personnel, I wonder if you think maybe just wrap them up in a ball and make, make them pass out and treat them like luggage, at that point, because it's like with the swimming, whenever somebody's like drowning in the middle of a body of water, the absolutely worst thing to do is go and swim out to them and try to help them, because they're just gonna grab onto you and pull you down. Um,
Oh,
and so, the advice is always, have a pole or a rope or something like that. But there's been like situations where people have been trying to rescue them, and they pretty much have to incapacitate the drowning swimmer to keep them from causing them both to die.
oh wow, I had no clue. Wow, I always just imagine like lifeguards swimming out to save you. Oh, that doesn't, oh wow.
It probably would not be safe for the lifeguard or for you, for them to do that, because
That's
you
so
know
bizarre. Wow. I guess you know what? Like that's a kind of neat idea to like I'm taking the I'm taking your idea seriously. Like what if you could have like some kind of a deployable ball around them, and then you kind of attach the balls with tethers to the space station. So like in case something happens, then you could but that's an idea worth looking into. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine you have like 20 civilians, if you will, or 20
Mm.
non-professionals, just coming up for a couple of days to like the space station, and there's like some type of emergency. The first thing they're gonna do is panic. So maybe putting them all in this little safety ball, giving them some knockout gas, and then you could tether them all
Uh,
together and pull them around wherever you need to.
like balloons in the,
Yeah.
the space station. That's so cool. Oh, I guess that's a cool idea. Because I guess if yeah, you would I guess it would be a very temporary solution if you like I guess knocking them out with a some kind of a gas. But yeah, it's worth looking into. Thank you.
Oh, sure. And so you got into space architecture. Um, and so I keep telling everybody I plan to retire on the moon. So I'm imagining 100-person facility with like big parks and a nice place to live, great views of the Earth, of course. You go out on the surface and stuff, and a budget of $100 billion. Do you think it could be done
100 billion. Wow.
for 100 people on the
Well,
moon?
I'm not, I'll be honest. I don't know about the budgeting side of it, but construction and design wise, I think it's definitely done. It can be definitely done because there's just so many people working with 3D printing and regolith, lunar regolith right now. That like so when I first started learning space architecture, there's this competition I was doing because I ran into this competition. It's called ooh, Jacques Rougerie Jacques Rougerie competition or something like that. They have that every year, so it's like if you Google it, you'll find it. They have different themes, and one of them is space, right? So for that year, it was specifically a lunar hotel. So there's definitely people thinking in that direction. So you might not be that far off. Um, I think like maybe like it depends so much on your launch cost and your for for 4 people, if you can fit everything in one launch, then like, maybe because all you need is 3D printers, your inflatable habitat that's going to go inside, your E-class power systems, all that kind of stuff. And I'm guessing for 4 people, it won't be that hard. And then if you can have some kind of a greenhouse structure that's gonna support like closing the loop for the carbon cycle kind of a thing. Yeah, maybe, who knows? Like you might have to change your diet to a very plant-based diet, but yeah, yeah, I think it might be possible. I'm not sure because I don't know the cost estimation, so we'll give my word. But yeah, but it's definitely there's too many people working on it. Even like I know of people who are working with in Australia in like the exact same topic on 3D printing with laser sintering really for with lunar regolith to build bricks. So, people are in this like that's a dream for so many people. So, it's a solid retirement plan, I'd say.
Would you visit such a place?
Sorry?
If you had an opportunity, would you visit such a place?
Oh, I would just live there. Are you kidding me? I would just stay there. Mars, I would just hop between Moon and Mars. That's it. Or maybe I'll stay in like in orbit somewhere in between. But of course, yeah. I think it's like it's that feeling of the death is like right there, but so you get to appreciate life even more. I think that's kind of also what makes like the psychological like from a psychological standpoint, I think that's what makes the overview effect even more overwhelming for most astronauts because you're right at the edge of living and dying, and then you're seeing looking back at Earth and you suddenly appreciate it so much more.
I think that may be why you have like these thrill seekers, people who like doing base jumping and skydiving and uh, those like. Do you do anything like that?
I like okay, so not that recently, I guess, because I went back to India because I was just and I was also designing like tiny houses in the Himalayas. But that's a different thing. Um, but before that, I was training as a helicopter pilot. So that was super fun. I didn't exactly know that you have to keep left your feet on the left pedal at all times to keep the helicopter like neutral, so not from like spinning round and round. I didn't know it. So like whenever I was pressing the right pedal, it was kind of like just the whole helicopter just started spinning and I was sorry about that. The whole helicopter just started spinning and I was panicking. But it was just so much fun because it's kind of like that panic creates that's like I'm not an adrenaline junkie, but I'm definitely starting to walk in that path.
Um, how many hours of flying time do you have with helicopters?
Oh, it was just an introductory flight. Then I had to go back to India and lots of other stuff, and I moved and yeah, but I definitely want to resume that here in Houston. I was looking at a few flight schools, but if you have any recommendations, please let me know.
Um, well, I mean, I've been taking flying lessons here at David Wayne Hooks Airport, but I'm taking, the flight school that I go to, United Flight Systems. They focus on fixed wing aircraft, so like Cessna 172s and
Not road, okay.
that. But there are helicopter schools at the same airport, but I'm unfamiliar with them.
Oh, nice. So, are you like connected to some program or is it like, are you just enrolled in the flight school?
I'm just enrolled in the flight school. So
Nice.
And sadly, well, I don't know, he has a different point of view, I'm sure. My flight instructor went to the airlines, so I'm in search for a new flight instructor at the moment. Because a lot of people who are flight instructors are just trying to build up their hours so that they can then go get an
Yeah.
airline job. So, whenever you find a flight instructor that's towards the end of that period, very high
Mm.
probability he'll or she will go to the airlines before you complete your training. So.
So isn't it 200 hours for your commercial pilot license?
That's true, but most airlines require you to have something in the neighborhood of like 1,500 hours before they'll consider you.
Oh, wow. Oh,
And
so I see. Yeah. So like that's like one good way to, I guess, build up your hours, huh?
exactly, so that's what the flight instructor is really getting out of the whole thing. The $40 you pay for that hour is not the real thing.
Uh, Dang it. Well, what's the flight school you said? I'll
Well,
definitely look into it though.
so the airport is David Wayne Hooks Airport, and the flight school is United Flight Systems, but they don't do helicopters, but there is a flight school next to them that does.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'll look into it then. Thank you so much. I've been like searching for this, like that some of my friends are into like skydiving. Like they've like taken it so seriously that they're like becoming like, instructor kind of things. It's amazing. I haven't gone yet, but I haven't been finding anyone for like a flight school recommendation. So thank you.
I went talking about skydiving. I was at a party last night and I talked to somebody who wants to go skydiving, but he wants to do solo the first time, not tandem. And I'm like, I don't understand his motivation. I, I would so want to do tandem the first time, that way if I pass out or freak out, I
Oh
still
my
have a
God.
better chance of surviving.
Yeah, like how is he sure that he's going to, like pull it at the right time, like pull the cord? So, actually talking about parachutes, I didn't know, and I learned this recently, but NASA's the Mars lander, what's the name? I'm forgetting again. But the parachute,
Perseverance.
right, thank you. I keep thinking persistence. I'm sorry. Perseverance. The parachutes on that, it has Morse code for Dear Mighty Thing. Did you know that? I had no clue.
I did not know that. That is interesting.
Yeah, someone told me and I was like blown away. Like that's amazing. Cause like so the orange, so it's like if you think of like so if you think of like a circle with the white, right? And then the orange kind of like it kind of the length of them vary with all of the different parts. Now those are like the, like I guess dashes and dots or whatever for Morse code for Dear Mighty Things. I was just blown away. I love it. And there's like a that parachute inspired skirt. So I'm definitely gonna buy that at least.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Um, well, do you know the last time we went to the moon?
I went to the moon.
No, that humanity went to the moon, that anybody stepped foot on the moon.
I don't know.
I mean, do you think it was like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago,
Oh,
longer?
Apollo, right? You
Uh-huh.
think?
Yeah.
Oh wow, no way.
Yeah,
Really?
1972.
Oh my God. That's like I thought wow. Because I was reading a few when I was when the competition, the when I was talking about when I was working on that, I was doing like literature review and then I got to know like it's kind of sad because so there was like these research papers and like books that I'd read during that time to kind of learn how you make an outpost, blah blah blah. Then like they had these future predictions of like legit scholars, right? And they're saying that, oh yeah, we should be having an outpost by like 2010s and stuff, and then by the time like 2020 or like by this decade, we should be already having like the start of a preliminary lunar base. Like so technologically, we should already be having, you should already have your retirement home done now, like, so I was just blown away that like how much the economic and political, I guess, pieces of the puzzle impact that and like make that delay. But wow, that's that's something to think about. That last time we went is so much back.
It's amazing. There's 12 people that have walked on the moon, and I think only about 4 of them are still alive.
Oh, Buzz Aldrin's alive, right?
Uh-huh. Buzz Aldrin and a few others.
Hmm.
But they're like in their 80s, at this point.
Yeah, actually, my professor is writing a book with Buzz Aldrin. So, and I think I was I was helping with like his books, like graphics and stuff when I was studying there. So yeah, he would bring that up, and I was just, yeah, I didn't know that Buzz Aldrin was still alive, so that was kind of a news for me.
Yeah, we actually were on an airplane with them one time. In 2016, there's the International Astronautical Congress. It's held each year in a different country. Like this year, it was held in Dubai, I think. But anyway, back in 2016, it was in Guadalajara, Mexico. And Elon Musk is going to be revealing his interplanetary transportation system, later known as VFR, now known as Starship and Super Heavy. And so we wanted to go and see that. But the flight, Buzz Aldrin was actually sitting right in front of my wife and son in the row before them on the plane down there. So that was kind of cool. We've
That is
breathed the
so
same air as Buzz Aldrin, which I guess in
so
the COVID,
close.
I guess in the COVID times, it sounds really, really
Oh
bad.
yeah. Oh well, actually no. Like I'd rather die because I got COVID from Buzz Aldrin than like some other way of getting COVID. I guess that's one of very good ways to get COVID. He's such a Mars guy. Did you get a chance to like talk to him or?
He is not, um, he is all about space. And he's not all about being a public figure though. A lot of public
Right.
figures, they're, they like having fans and getting selfies taken with them and that type of thing. He is so not like that. He's like, I'm not, a prop in your photo. I have the things I want to do, and I'm going to go off and do those things. So, which I think we should all respect that. But it's a little surprising because we just expect these famous people to be all about having fans and getting selfies done with them. But that's not true. I mean, can you imagine if your day was filled with random people coming up with you and like, Tamalee, can we take a selfie? Oh, good. And then every word you say is like, completely like
Oh,
probed and
well, I guess I'd probably become a hermit or something. That's kind of scary. I also think like, that's a really good thing that he likes, like he loves space and not being a public figure, because that makes sense, I guess, why he and like how he got to the moon and second person on moon. Like you didn't have computers back then, and you still like you kind of like pulled together somewhat of a computer. And it's like I saw this uh I'm forgetting the name for the thing, but so on the dashboard of the um oops, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Your video is frozen, but I can still hear you.
I think like you're breaking up and I don't know why.
Um, what can be done about it?
Hmm.
Um, well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I guess you're just your video is stuck,
Yeah,
but
your video is stuck too. It's really funny. Uh, so, but Yeah, one thing we could probably do is maybe stop and restart the video. Oh,
Okay, there we go.
we're back. Yes. Of course, it's all, I like your picture is completely blacked out though. So,
I don't understand. Your video is stuck again.
oh, my video is stuck again?
Yeah,
That's curious. Well, we could stick with the audio, I guess. Maybe that would be better. That,
okay.
yeah. But I guess about us going to the moon last time in 1972. Um, why do you think we haven't been back since then? Mm, Button again.
Okay, thank you.
So last time we went to the moon was in 1972. Why do you think it's been so long?
I would say political reasons play a big part. The reason, even without computers, Apollo mission, like the aggressiveness of NASA with Apollo missions was so strong was, to show Russians, right? And sorry, um, yeah, I think it's my internet connection. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so there was a strong political incentive before, and after that sort of went away, it kind of, that huge amount of money became kind of an obstacle, right? And I think, as you know, launch costs, like if someone can, like Elon Musk, or like people like that, if we can bring down, with the help of those people, we can bring down the launch costs and make access easier to. Hi.
Hi again. Yeah, the reliable. I keep looking forward to the day whenever reliable internet's like uh, something that's widely available. Um, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I don't know why the Zoom kept crashing. Um, I'm trying to think of any other alternative, but if you can
There
think
is
of
a
someone, let me know.
there is a dial-in number. Maybe that would be
Oh,
better.
that's a good idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
can you hear me okay? Oh, hello, Tamalee, can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
I'm sorry, I was trying to dial in, and then realized that, oh, Zoom like came back on or something.
No worries, no worries. So you were saying that it was a political reason why we haven't been back to the moon. Can you
I would
and
say so.
and the need to reduce launch costs as being like an enabling thing. I was wondering if you thought China might help to revive those same political reasons we had before, or what do you think might be the spark that actually pushes us to go and explore and develop the moon.
I think, I don't know how collaborative they will be, but I think that's a strong possibility. Um, and with, now India is also like the fourth space power. So I think as private connections in other countries kind of if we can figure out to get around the defense sort of standpoint and like I guess like it's always going to be in a defense. But if we can find out a way to collaborate, I think it's going to help so much because then your budget drops and your everything becomes so much easier.
And what do you think about? Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I
No worries.
I can do the dial in if you give me a minute.
Sure thing. Sure thing.
Sorry.
Oh, hello, Tamalee.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Sorry about all the interruptions. This has never happened to me before, so I don't understand what's happening.
No worries. Sometimes it's like the weather, you just have to get an umbrella or
Well,
something.
well, I guess that I work remotely, so I don't. What confusing me is like this never happens to like the video conferences I do at work. So it's the first time. Hopefully I'll figure out a solution soon. But yeah, you were, I forgot where we were.
Oh, yes. We were just talking about what might drive us back to the moon, about China, India, that type of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm definitely, because the future is so different from what it used to be. I think we're going someplace really good because, especially with the Inspiration 4 launch, like it just changes how like that military sort of I guess that military understanding or that theme of how we used to view space has changed or shifted. Now it's like open. It's now it's open to private agencies. Now it's open to civilians, and I think it's like that. For at least that's my opinion. That I think the last piece of the puzzle is collaboration with other countries, and because that if you're gonna make like a lunar base or a Martian base, then I think it's going to be kind of inevitable that not one country is going to support it, or if it does, then they have to have like really big political motivators for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I was thinking about the Inspiration 4 mission here. You're right, that was such a big milestone for us. Out of curiosity, did you apply to be on the Inspiration 4 flight?
I did not. I didn't even. Wow. I had no clue we could apply. That's so cool.
Yeah, well, there's essentially two ways that you could have been selected for it. One was donating to St. Jude's in the month of February and being randomly selected through a drawing. The second
Oh,
way
wow.
was to create a online store using the Shift4 payments platform, which Jared Isaacman, the person that put together the mission, that's his company, and create like an inspirational story around that. And Cyan Proctor created a store to sell some of her artwork, and she made a video about it, and it got a lot of popularity, and they decided that she would be the best person to send up there. So
Wow.
I know I have.
I saw her artworks. I agree. I love them, and it's kind of like that, like Nicole Stott kind of thing. But I think she made a painting like up in space as she was in like her sleeping bag or something, like the sleeping pod or whatever.
Yeah. But I guess how common do you think Inspiration 4 type missions will be?
Well, from the civilian point of view, I think it's I think it's going to be a little less common until we figure out the launch cost barrier, for sure. But from like the private space industry's point of view of like sending people up in space, I think that's going to be increasing a lot more, for sure. But like trained person, like you still have to send up trained personnel, and yeah, the reason I'm like a little bit conflicted about it is because ISRO, which is the Indian Space Research Organization, when they decided on like their the first human space flight program, which is I don't remember exactly when it is gonna happen, but I know they're prepping for it. And because the people to send up, they're only looking at military, for example. So this is kind of an example of, as you have like other countries, join in, like Australia just set up their new space agency, right? So as more countries sort of chime in, I think it's more going to be like more conservative countries are going to go for military kind of background, and then you like the more like sort of, I guess, whoever the political leader is, the more liberal they are or progressive they are, it's going to be more like, oh yeah, like let's just get trained personnel up there and not just, discriminate on the basis of are you military personnel or not. So to make it short, I guess, if it can, if as other countries join in and as this kind of increases exponentially, like going to space, I think civilian access to space will increase. But I think we would have to, for that to become the norm, we would have to figure out, again, launch costs.
And have you been following what SpaceX has been doing with Starship?
Not that closely.
I mean, Elon is talking about having a spacecraft that could lift 100 tons to orbit and could potentially fly 3 times a day just by fueling it up and going again. And he's talking about having a factory down there in, Boca Chica, Texas, near Brownsville, that can produce 2 of these per week. So,
Oh, wow.
At the end of a few years, you're able to lift like megatons to orbit on a regular basis. And it's just, kind of like the scale and the scope of that, I think is truly hard to appreciate.
Wow. I didn't know about those details, but that's so cool. And yeah, I guess, like if that works, that's like so much closer. Like I think that's like it's going to be that shift, right? Because if he solves it, then all of a sudden space is not this real hard to get to kind of like military only, millionaires only space. It's becomes so much. Yeah, that's we're in a very history redefining time for sure.
I mean, I almost feel like the 2020s are to space exploration what like the 1990s were to the internet. This period of
Oh
uh,
yeah.
kind of unleashing huge new capabilities and breaking through technologically in ways we couldn't think of before.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's exactly like internet. Not many people were interested in having servers set up for internet and stuff, and then it just took. Or like how many e-commerce companies would you have known before Amazon? None, right? So it's like it's that, and then when it grows, it's like this exponential curve, and because everybody wants to be involved because there's now no potential problems left to solve, or at least like big problems that can be real roadblocks. But yeah, I think because I'm getting to know more and more countries that are like Singapore has their own space agency that is so cool. But yeah, as more and more countries chime in, I think it's really going to take off, like exactly like you said, like the internet.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. There's a lot of people that really miss are sad that they missed out on Apollo, but I think now is like the time that people are going to be envious of, like this decade.
Yeah, Apollo's was. I love how it could, like that it kind of showed us like what is possible, like what we could do even without like super like great computers or great internet or whatever. Like it showed us the possibilities, right? But now is the time where we can, if like as like it unfolds almost, I think we're going to truly see like the power of the like launch cost reduction, how it can transform truly an industry, and be as more as we become more open about space, like why Inspiration 4 is such a milestone, right? Because you're opening the gates to the general public and not just military. So as we become more open about the whole concept of it, I think we're going to see the true potential, not like the Apollo would look like the first sparks, I guess, and this would be like the full-fledged flame that it starts up.
Yeah, it's completely different in terms of scale. What do you think about us going back to the moon? What excites you about it? What concerns do you have?
I'm really curious if we can put, I don't know exactly what payloads are going and stuff, but if I'm really curious about the actually building something on it. It's like not as much about like, I guess, I'm obviously like excited that like we're going back to the moon, but I'm more excited about like building something on it. I think at first we would need some kind of an orbital station around the moon, and an outpost, some kind of like a very small scale outpost on the surface. So it could be, I guess, either in the near the poles where your the water ice is, or you can think about lava tubes. I know there's some interest. Like I know some folks who are working on that, and I'm sort of kind of working on a project. Because I'm not super like vocal about it, is because it's kind of an NDA kind of a thing, and then B, it's still in its research phase, so I don't think it's that big of a deal yet. But yeah, I think we would need an outpost first, either inside the lava tube or near the poles. The Shackleton crater is great for that, because then you have like, it's like those eternal peaks of sunshine. So if you can hook up like solar panels and then capture that, and then have some kind of a water ice mining situation, and maybe like a small power plant. Maybe a small power plant won't be necessary for like the outpost phase, but if we can at least have those two, at least have enough infrastructure to extract those two resources, or capture those two resources, then I think that's like a great start to the, I guess, the initial phases of the lunar base. So I'm really curious about how that would turn out. And then there's also the point, like the cislunar space that we could first create an outpost in, right? Like in the Lagrange point, so it like stays there, and we don't have to do much, but just like have a couple thrusters so that we can just orient the station there. But yeah, I guess that's why I'm curious about it. And there's also like some lava tubes with like the skylights, like the Marius Hills and stuff. And I think that's a very interesting possibility too, because then you could, and if you could, have like 3D printers on the surface, then, that's like maybe not the first outpost, I guess it wouldn't make sense. But, for the preliminary base or something, if we could have 3D printers there, that would either like print it out like block by block, or have like a bigger setup sort of, and then that prints out the whole thing, and then kind of you put them on like wheels or something, so it rolls away to like the next habitat printing. But yeah, it's exciting times for sure. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent.
No, it's great. Yeah. So do you think you'll get to visit the moon in your lifetime?
Oh yeah, of course. Yes, absolutely. I think like maybe I'll be kind of old, but I would, yeah, yeah, I think definitely, because if even if like with like very, consider, but of course, given the fact that like political climate doesn't become so conservative, that it's like, so if someone misuses the power that we are harboring, to kind of, show dominance, any of the countries, like, I'm not gonna say China, but if they do, then it kind of like creates this roadblock, which is not, technology wise, we are well, well equipped to go there today. But I think it's more of that, politics, where country politics, where if we can have that kind of united stand towards it, I think it becomes like an obvious thing, right? That, yeah, maybe like in 20 years, but I think so.
That'd be awesome. I so look forward to having a day where people like you and me and whoever wants to go can go to can go to the moon and look back at the Earth.
Oh yeah, that's what I live for. Like, I think it's definitely possible though, because if you think about it, it's if the like all each countries like go through phases of like these times, right? Like even with the U.S., um, like of leadership that either supports or doesn't quite support space. But if like outside of the politics, like we were talking about the Starship, right? So if access becomes real easy, which it's already moving that way with, the public-private partnership between government and, companies. But if that roadblock for space access gets removed, then it's not really much of it doesn't get affected as much, I would say. Like it would still be, politics would still be a huge determinant because it poses this like missile technology and all of these related things, but it's not going to be as much of an impact, because now you're not as dependent on the like an annual budget or whatever, because your cost is much low. So it would kind of if it can, and as we keep going to the moon or going to Mars, as we keep doing that, we're going to find more benefits that we can't quite foresee today. Like, well, like GPS, for example, right? So we didn't know we wouldn't have known how much satellite technology is going to help us, like just to get to like grocery store, for example. You just plug it in Google now, but it's just so obvious now. But it wasn't the fact before if we had never launched a satellite. So I think as we keep accessing space, like the benefits of space becomes more and more clear. Going to the moon becomes more and more beneficial to us. Then it's kind of going to become this asteroid mining, for example, is like one of the benefits I can think of. But that's the thing, like we can't quite foresee that. But as those benefits, unforeseen today benefits, become clearer to us, and with the reduced cost, I think there's going to be less sort of political resistance from that. And yeah, so I think that's my view.
Well, that's awesome. It's going to be an amazing decade. So, NASA was originally planning to land people on the moon in 2024. That's why I'm interviewing a person a day to the end of 2024. Just last week, there was an announcement saying that, it's probably going to be 2025, And then the NASA Office of Inspector General says, oh, considering the program, the problems you have with the program, it's probably going to be after 2027. And then China is saying that they're planning to land people on the moon in the early 2030s. If you had a bet on a year that the next person, regardless of what country, actually landed on the moon, where would you place that bet?
Like a year?
A year, yeah.
I would say, okay, complete random guess, right?
Mhm.
But 2026, I would say, definitely.
2026. And who
Yeah.
do you, what nation do you think is landing on the moon in 2026?
Well, I would think. Well, I guess for right now, like from what we know right now, I would say it probably would be America. But here's the thing: I don't know what China's up to, so I don't, I don't know what kind of like resources they have. Like I know for a fact, like Russia doesn't really have. I mean, they might, but they don't really have that strong of an motivation, at least to, or they at least don't seem like it, that they have a strong motivation to go to the moon real soon. I think it would be probably U.S., but if it could be China too, because they do have a strong motivation to sort of, show dominance.
Indeed. I mean, just last week, you also have Russia trying to show some dominance with their anti-satellite test. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
that in the
really?
news.
Oh, yeah. I saw that, and then there was like, oh my God, yeah. I didn't read into that, but oh, I have to catch up on this. But yeah, I heard about the anti-satellite thing, and I think India has done something very similar too. That's like how they, I guess, declared themselves as fourth space power. So yeah, but I mean, when it's like going to the moon, I think it's at least like with human beings then involved, then it's more of a, it becomes more of a major dedication, investments, time, energy kind of a thing. So I don't quite see like the byproducts of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, some people think that Putin was trying to warn Europe and the US and others that, they should stay out of what he plans to do in the Ukraine, for example. That's one theory. Excuse me.
Well, I guess that would make sense, but yeah, that's like, I don't know, I guess, because if it's 2026, let's just, what my guess is, it's probably going to be it could be a private space company even, but it if it's Russia, then I guess, yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Hello?
yep, still here. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Well, it'd definitely be interesting to see how it all sorts out. But yeah, that's pretty much all the questions that I had. But is there anything else that you wanted to discuss, or anything that you think might be a good to add to this?
Well, I guess space architecture wise, yeah, but countdown wise, I'm not quite sure.
Well, no worries, no worries. But yeah, if you know of anybody else that would be willing to have a discussion with me, I have like 1,130 more people to interview, so I could use some help in
Nice.
finding.
Sure, yeah. Have you tried any of the reached out to like SIXA students and graduates? I know a bunch of my friends who were studying with like space architecture with me there. They would love to share their thoughts as well.
Yeah, I haven't reached out to them directly. I mean, just like you know, you and Masa, and maybe a few other individuals that I just happen to know. But yeah, no, that would be an interesting thing from a space architecture standpoint. You know, how at what point do we have like a standard design for a moon habitat that's part of like a moon village, and you know, what kind of role would
Yeah.
that
Well, ESA is doing a lot of work on that. The European Space Agency is doing like so much work on like Moon Village stuff. That's yeah, it's really interesting. And they have like all these big architecture name companies who are sort of working on that. They're like Norman Foster's or there's your B. Archangel's architect, and they I think made an analog for like a moon village, or maybe it was Martian settlement. I'm not quite remembering, but yeah, they made one of like the analogs in the Middle East in like a deserted region. I'm forgetting the name of it again, but it's barren, right? So it's kind of like feels like that. But yeah, I would love to put you in touch with more space architecture folks. And some of them are working with Axiom Space. So I think that would be a great sort of perspective too. Like I mean, they probably won't be able to share too many things, but you know, their at least perspective on this, knowing what is going on in the private space industry.
Yeah, definitely. And the how space transportation and architecture and habitation and exploration is all going to change, and maybe their perspective on what the value of that is and how to communicate that value to the wider you know, population. Because I think a
Right.
lot of people have some
Yeah.
doubts about the value.
Well, I think just because it's like space, like we think of the projects involving space in that kind of like luxury kind of light, but because you are designing for something that's such an extreme environment, you're automatically solving a lot of earth-based problems. So for example, I'm working with this company, Gromars, and we're designing, well, I'm designing a greenhouse, but Daniel Tompkins, he's like the main person. And so he has a patented technology that can turn basically carbon dioxide into your like polymerization process and then produce bioplastics out of it. So we're trying to design a 3D printed greenhouse, which can be like an orbital farm almost. And it also kind of takes us a step closer to the like completing the closed loop carbon cycle. Now, because right now, like all of the carbon dioxide that astronauts, like the crew breathes out, basically is vented out like methane from the ISS. So we're like solving this problem. However, in like low Earth orbit, that has such a direct implication on Earth. So he is working on, like we are working on the Earth applications as well. But it's if we can use that kind of technology on Earth, which would be a lot simpler, we are automatically solving, these kind of like I guess the CO2 emissions and your greenhouse gases. All of these things sort of will go hand in hand. I'm not like talking about creating more plastic on Earth. I don't think that's necessary. But that was an example of like how fixing a space problem can like more often than not leads to solving Earth-based problems. So, or even like when we would design like space architectural projects, we would think about it from, there's a lot of consideration that goes into like how does it affect like the psychology and physiology a little bit of astronauts, for example, like your sleep cycles are off, right? And how do you kind of I guess balance that with like 16 sunrises every day on the ISS? Like how do you keep track of your circadian rhythm, right? So like little things like these, when we're solving that, it then when the COVID pandemic hit, you know, what I realized is that so many guidelines are there for designing in isolation, at least from a psychology point of view, that is then now reflected on to, okay, how are we going to be prepared for the pandemic? So there are like these correlations that are kind of like don't seem so apparent, but after you kind of design for the worst, you kind of get very much better at like the normal, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, I forgot what your question was, but
No worries, no worries. But well, Tamalee, I think I better let you go. It was good to connect with you this morning, and sorry about the network connectivity issues, but it was good that we
yeah,
were
I'm
able
really
to.
sorry about that.
No worries. It was good that we were able to still connect with the dial-in, so it's always good to have a backup.
Yes, yes, thank you. And yeah, I would love to check out your next NSF event.
Yes, it's going to be the second weekend and second Saturday in December, so that would be December the 11th. And we're going to have a manager, I mean, an engineer from the Orion team come and have a discussion about Orion. So if you have any questions about Orion, please bring them.
I do have some questions about, like, I know they used augmented reality to like assemble the parts of that, but yeah, there's too many questions. But anyways, yeah, I will bring them.
Bring them all. It'd be good to ask somebody that's actually involved in the project who can speak.
Oh yeah,
Personal experience.
Thank you so much for setting these up. Let me know if I can help anyhow.
Oh, absolutely. I need help getting speakers for next year and kind of advertising it and you know, just you know, that type of thing. So yes, anything you
Yes,
could do to help, that'd be fantastic.
of course. Yeah, let me know whenever. You have my email.
Okay. Well, you have a good day, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, you have a great weekend too. Bye.
Bye bye.